We begin the Gemara today at the Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Chaf Amud Beis. So this Mishnah continues the halachas regarding a shtar. How do you verify a shtar? As I mentioned before, one of the basic halachas of a shtar is that midrabanan they require verification. Minat Torah we're not concerned with forgeries, but midrabanan they said a shtar that's not mekuyim you cannot use it at all. So what is the method of being mekayim a shtar? This Mishnah goes through one of them. So you have two witnesses that are signed on a shtar. So one witness comes along and says, "This is my signature," and he also is testifying regarding the other signature that it's his friend's handwriting, it's his friend's signature. And the other witness is saying the same thing. I can testify regarding my signature that it's mine, and the other signature is my friend's. So then so they are believed in this way to verify the shtar, because basically what the Tana here is saying is that now you have two witnesses that are verifying every single signature. But if one witness says only about his own signature, this is my signature, and the other witness is saying regarding his signature that it's my signature, but neither are testifying about the others, then each one, for each signature, you only have one aid that's verifying it. So you're going to have to bring another aid that recognizes both signatures, and therefore you'll have a full aidus for each signature. Divrei Rabbi, this is Rabbi's opinion. So again, the point of Rabbi's opinion is you need two aidus for each individual signature. You could have the same edus for both signatures, but the point is you have to have edus for both signatures. The Chachamim say, no, they do not have to combine with them anybody else after each one testifies about their own signature. We trust one aid that says, this is my signature, the other aid says, this is my signature, and that's it. That verifies the shtar, and we don't need any additional edus. Sagt the Gemara, how do we explain this machlokes here? Keshetimtzi loima, this is a very interesting expression. Rashi here says, Keshetimtzi loima means if you'll look deeply into the subject, and you'll come to the bottom line of this point here. What are they arguing about? So then you'll see the point of their argument is as follows. L'divrei Rebbe, according to Rebbe's opinion, why did Rebbe say that you have to have two edus for each signature, to verify each signature? So the reason is, because when you verify a shtar, you're verifying the authenticity of each one of the signatures. So therefore, just like it is with every single testimony in Bezdin, you have to have two edus. So over here as well, you have to have two edus for each individual signature. Got it? Page before. L'divrei Chachamim, however, according to the Chachamim, when you verify a shtar, you're not verifying just signatures. Really, what you're coming to do is you're coming to verify the information that it says in the shtar. The money, if it says in the shtar that someone borrowed a money from you, or that there's a property that you bought, you're really coming to verify the information in the shtar. And therefore, as long as those two witnesses that signed the shtar come and each verifies their signature, so now you have two eidim, the same two eidim that signed the shtar are now here saying that yes, we in fact signed the shtar, so you have two eidim on the information of the shtar. You don't need two individual eidim for each signature. Just like when they signed the shtar, you have those two eidim, so now as well, you have those two eidim for the money that's in the shtar. That's the explanation of the machlokes of Rebbe and the Chacham in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara Pshita. It's so obvious that this is what they're arguing about. Why does the Gemara have to explain this? Or as the Mefarshim actually say, even more so, the Gemara here uses the expression Keshetimtzi loima. If you look at the deeper into this, you'll see that this is the explanation of their machlokes. Why do you have to look so deeply? This is obvious. There's no other way to explain this machlokes here. So the Gemara says, yeah, the hezbollah is definitely along the lines of this idea, but to explain it this way is not necessarily so simple. Why? Because I would think to say, when Rabbi requires that there should be two edim for each individual signature, you know what the reason is? Sfuki misapkele. Because really, Rabbi has a doubt about what exactly the verification is coming to accomplish. Is it take, in fact, like we said, that according to Rebbe, the Eidim are coming to testify each about their signature, and therefore it requires 2 Eidim for each signature? Or even Rebbe has a suffix, and possibly the Eidim are coming to testify about the money in the shtar, about the money that's written inside the shtar, and therefore one Eid saying about his signature and the other saying about his signature would be good enough. So in other words, the only reason why Rebbe in our Mishnah requires 2 Eidim for each signature, because he's being stringent about this, because he has a suffix. He's not 100% sure about this. So the chiddush of the hezbollah of the Gemara here is to say that when Rebbe says he requires 2 for each signature, it's because Rebbe didn't have no sfekis about this. Rebbe is sure that the point of the kiyum is to be mekayim the signature. So you have to have 2 Eidim for each signature. Now the Gemara explains, v'naf gemina. If we're going to say that Rebbe actually has a suffix about this, when Rebbe requires 2 signatures, or rather 2 eidos, that is, for each signature, so Rebbe is only saying it because he has a suffix. And possibly each aid is saying eidos on the monash b'shtar when it comes to verify the shtar. So then there'll be a big nafkamina here. It could come out actually that there'll be a chumrah. So how did we understand over here until now, based on what we learned in the Mishnah? That Rebbe is the one that's most stringent, and the Rabbanan are the ones that are lenient, right? Rebbe is saying for each signature, you have to have 2 eidos because you want to verify each individual signature. The Rabbanan are the ones that are being lenient and are saying, no, you're saying eidos on the mana in the shtar, and therefore each aid saying eidos on his own signature is good because now together you have 2 eidos on the mana in the shtar. So the Rabbanan are lenient, but now the Gemara will point out that there is another situation where it's going to be flipped around. The Rabbanan's opinion that you say eidos on the monash b'shtar will be more stringent. In what case is that? In a case where one of these eidim passed away. So now, if you're going to say that the eidos that you verify a shtar is coming to verify the monash b'shtar, the information, the money that's written in the shtar, so then you're going to need 2 eidos from the street, to come and say eidos on the person that passed away on his signature. And the Gemara will explain why. But before I read the Gemara inside, what the Gemara here says is based on the point that Rashi here brings, that when the Torah says al pishnayim eidim yakum davar, that in order to establish something you have to have 2 eidos. What we learn from that also is that it's not just enough to have 2 eidos, but the words of the 2 eidos have to prove the point that they're saying equally. Which means if one aid comes and tells us about 3/4 of this story, and another aid only comes and tells us about a quarter of the story, so their words are not being used equally for the story that they're saying aid is about. The aidus has to be al pi shnayim, that we're using these 2 witnesses equally. That's the limud that Rashi says this Gemara is based on. So therefore, what the Gemara over here says is as follows. If you're going to say al monash b'shtar hen meidin, that the aidus that they're saying is going on the money that's written in the shtar, so then in a case where 1 aid passed away, you're going to need 2 aidus for his signature. Why? So in the words of the Gemara, first let me read it inside and then I'll explain it. Because if you're not going to bring 2 aidus to testify for that signature of the person that passed away, you're also going to use the testimony of this aid that's still here and alive to say testimony about his signature. It's going to come out that you're verifying this shtar 3/4 based on the words of 1 aid, and you're using the other aid just for 1/4. And you can't do that. The Torah says al pishnayim eidim yakum davar, that it has to be equal. So what's the Gemara saying here? So it's a long Rashi here, but the point that the Gemara is saying is that if you hold, there's a very big difference if you hold al monash b'shtar hemidin, or again, what's the words of the Gemara before? Al ksav yadan hemidin. If you say, let's start with monash b'shtar. If you say al monash b'shtar hemidin, so when a person says eidus about his signature, he's not really saying eidus about his signature. He's coming to verify the mana of the shtar. And in order for this monash b'shtar to be accepted as fact, you have to have 2 eidim that are saying that this happened. So when the first aid comes and says eidus on his ksav yad, he already with that testimony has verified 50% of the shtar by doing 1 ksav yad. So it's not only about the ksav yad, it's about the money in the shtar. Now 50%, we look at this shtar as 50% verified. Now, if this aid will want to also testify about his friend's signature, his friend passed away, so he also wants to say Eidus for his friend's signature, but he can't say Eidus alone for his friend's signature. He's going to say Eidus for his friend's signature together with another aid. You have to have two aidim. So he's going to have to say it together with another aid. So now it comes out that for your friend's signature, half of it is the same person that's saying Eidus. He said Eidus on his own signature, and now he's also saying Eidus on his friend's signature, together with another aid. So what happened over here just now? 3/4 of this star was verified by one person. Half when he said on his own signature, and another quarter when he said the Eidus on the other signature, together with another aid that combined with him, that's pitching in for another quarter of this Eidus. So that's not acceptable. So therefore, if you hold on Manisha B'Shtar Emid, then in this case it's going to come out of Chumrah. You're going to have to find two Eidus that are going to say Eidus on the signature of that aid that passed away. So now it'll be half and half. You're saying Eidus on your star, on your signature in the star. The other two Eidus are saying Eidus on the other signature in the star. On the other hand, though, if you hold al Ksav Yad Emidin, that when each one says Eidus, they're saying Eidus on the Ksav Yad of the star. So then, when you say Eidus on your own signature, you're not believed fully. 50% on your own signature. Even when you say Eidus on your own signature, you're going to have to bring along a second aid together with yourself to say Eidus on your own signature. So when you have to bring a person min hashuk to say Eidus here, you just have to find one person min hashuk that recognizes yours and your friend's signature, and then you could say Eidus on your own signature together with that person min hashuk, and then he also says Eidus together with you on the other signature of the other person min hashuk. And it comes out to be 50-50.
The same person?
Again?
The same person can use it?
The same aid. Now again, let me go back to the other opinion though. If you hold Almanisha B'Shtar Hemidin, when you say Eidus on your signature, even if you bring along another person to say that Eidus together with you, the other person that you bring along together with you is not needed B'chlal. His point, you don't even need him. Because the chelik that you're saying Eidus on your signature, you're saying your part on the 50% of the star, and you don't need a second person with you, right? That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. When each eight says Eidus on their part of the star, they don't need to combine anybody else with them. So then it would come out that you say Eidus on 50%, and then you're mitzdarif with this aid to say Eidus for the other aid that passed away. So you're saying Eidus on 3/4 of the star, and the other aid is saying Eidus only on a quarter. But if you hold al ksav yadon heimidin, so you do need two Eidus for each individual signature, then it's fine. So then you just bring one aid that says Eidus along with you on your signature, and an Eidus along with you on the other signature, and the Eidus is distributed equally. You have two Eidus on your signature and two Eidus on the other person's signature. So the point is that it comes out that in this case where one aid passed away, if you hold Almanisha B'Shtar Emidin, it's actually going to be a chumrah. You're going to have to find two separate Eidus for that one signature of the person that passed away. So therefore what the Gemara is saying is, possibly when Rebbe in our Mishnah said this halacha, that you have to have two Eidus for each individual signature, he wasn't saying this because he was 100% sure that that's the halacha, that your Eidus is on the Ksav Yad, so you need two Eidus for that Ksav Yad. He was saying it because there's a suffix. He's not sure if your Eidus is on the Ksav Yad, or is the Eidus on the money in the shtar. And therefore, what did Rebbe say? In our Mishnah, when both Eidus are alive, Rebbe is saying that you have to be stringent, that each signature should have two Eidus on it. And when one Eid passed away, Rebbe would be machmer as well and say that maybe the way we look at it is that your Eidus is on the money of the shtar. And therefore you can't use one aid to combine with the aid that's alive to say Eidus on both signatures, because then it would come out that you're collecting 3/4 based on one aid. And you're going to have two separate Eidus for the other signature. So Rebbe would be machmer in both cases. Kamash Malan, so that was the chiddush here that the Gemara said, the Rebbe mifshat pshitale, that when Rebbe says that the Eidus is on the Ksav Yad of the shtar, and therefore you have to have two Eidus for each Ksav Yad, Rebbe is saying this, bein l'kula, bein l'chumra, whether it'll come out to be a leniency, whether it'll come out to be a stringency. In the case when both Eidim are alive, it's a stringency. that you require each one of them to say Eidus, not just for his own signature, but for his friend's signature as well. In the event that one aid passes away, it comes out to be a leniency. That now this one aid could combine another aid from the street with him and say Eidus on both of the signatures, and it's accepted. But if you would hold on Manisha B'Shtar Heimidin, you would need two separate Eidus for that other signature. So therefore the point is, Rebbe is saying this with certainty, whether it's a leniency or a stringency.
So Rebbe, if one person died, they this and that, always need more Eidos, right?
It's going to come out, it comes out in one case it's a chumre and in one case it's a kula.
But always need.
But for each signature, it always comes out that for each signature you need two Eidos, yeah. And the Gemara brings another source for this.
The whole thing's interesting. When you made the star,
Yeah. You need just one aid, one signature.
You need one and one.
Yeah.
Now you need more.
Correct, because you're coming to verify the signatures. According to Rebbe, you're not coming to verify the information of the shtar. First time around, you're coming
why
to.
Why is he saying that the first time around it's only to say what's inside? The second time around it's only.
Because now we have to authenticate the signatures, so it's sort of a different aid. That's what Rebbe's saying. Now it's a different story. You're coming to authenticate signatures.
Good, but the first time it was I saying, so I'm saying this is mine.
Thirdly, when you sign it, you're signing about the story in the shtar. Okay, it's a new. It's sort of a new edus.
Maybe I'm signing because other people watching me sign.
Okay, let's go back there.
Edus, when you're signing a shtar, you're signing for the content of the shtar that he's selling the property to him. When you come to authenticate,
now it's signatures.
You have to
okay, let's continue. Zok the Gemara, the Omer Rav Yehuda Omer Rav. So Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav, Shnaye machasumim al shtar. When two people sign a shtar, umeisechad mem, and one of these people died, so what happens now? So Rav is following the Rabbanan's opinion. Tzrichem shnayim and ashok lahoy dalov. So over here, you're going to have two people, extra two edim, to testify about that one signature of the person that passed away. You can't use the live aid to say edus about his own signature and also for that signature of the person that passed away.
100%.
Because then that would be 75% of the shtar is being authenticated by this one live aid. You can't do that. And now the Gemara says, Bezu, Rebbe L'Kula. In this situation, Rebbe will actually be more lenient. And again, the point is, because according to Rebbe, they're saying edus about the signatures, so the live aid could just combine one more person to say edus with him on his signature, and say edus together with that one aid on the other signature. So Rebbe will be more lenient. V'Rabbanan l'chumre. And over here, Rabbanan are going to be l'chumre, because the Rabbanan are going to say you can't combine one aid with yourself, because when you use that aid with yourself, he's not helping anything with the edus that you said on your own signature. When you say edus on your own signature, so over here, it's fully accepted already. You don't need to combine anyone else. So that's already 50%. And so if you're going to say edus together with that aid on the other signature, so now it's going to come out that one person is authenticating 75% of the shtar. You can't do that. Okay, so that's the story over here. Shtickle complicated, but I hope you got it. Let's continue. Zakta Gemara, V'i leket trei. What happens if one Eitaka passed away and we don't have two people of the street to authenticate his signature? So what's the Eitzah? We need to verify the shtar. Elachad, you just have one aid here. So according to Rebbe, that could work. One aid is fine. But according to the Rabbanan, you have to have two separate aids for that signature of the aid that passed away. So what's the Eitzah? Says the Gemara, what do we do? Abaya says, do as follows. Lichtov chsimis yadei achaspa. Let that one live aid go and write a signature, his signature, on a chaspa, on a earthenware. V'shadle b'veidina. And let him throw it into the Bezdin. Let him have Bezdin find this. And now Bezdin could verify his signatures without his testimony. What Bezdin will do is, Bezdin will now authenticate his signature. How? By comparing the signature in the shtar to this earthenware that has his signature on it. And so he does not have to say edus on his own signature. And then and now this one live aid can go together with another aid of the street that he finds, and he could say edus together with him on the second signature. And so that works. So in such a case, Bezdin already independently verified his signature, and now you could say edus in the second signature. Says the Gemara, one detail here that it said, what should he do? He should write his signature on a broken earthenware. V'dafka chaspa. You should only put your signature on a chaspa. Why? Aval amagil loy, but on a parchment, on a piece of paper, don't put your signature down for Bezdin to authenticate your signature through it. Why? Dilme mishkach le'inish. Maybe someone will find this piece of paper later. The lemaili, this person that's a thief. V'kotzav ilavei, and he'll write on it whatever he wants. My deboy. He'll write on it, this guy owes me $1,000 and it has a signature on it. So therefore, we write it on a chaspa because on a chaspa it cannot be accepted. It won't be used. Tanan, and we learned in a Mishnah, it says, if somebody brings you your handwriting that you yourself sign, that you owe this and this amount of money, so even though it doesn't have the status of a regular shtar because it doesn't have two Eidim that signed it, but nevertheless, it could be used to collect with this alone. You could only collect from properties that he has in his possession, but it still could be used. Rav Yehuda Mashmuel said about this machlokes here between the Rabbanon and Rebbe in our Mishnah. How do you authenticate a shtar? Halacha k'divrei Chachamim. We paskin like the Chachamim against the Rebbe. Frag the Gemara Pshita, obviously. Yachid ve'Rabbim, halacha k'Rabbim. Anytime there's a single Tana arguing with a Rabbim, the Rabbanon here, so you paskin always like the Rabbim. So why does he have to say that the halacha is like the Chachamim? Answers the Gemara, no, with Rebbe it's actually different. Because I would think to say, halacha Rebbe mechaveira, that Rebbe was so great, we always pass him like Rebbe when he argues with any of his colleagues. And vafila mechaveira, but possibly this rule of paskening like Rebbe is so strong, even when Rebbe argues with many of his colleagues, still we would pasken like Rebbe. Kamash malam, that's why it tells me no, that we only pasken like Rebbe anytime he argues with any one of his colleagues, but not against the Chachamim. Simin nach not chad, which is a simin for the various different Amiraim that are going to discuss this subject here now. Amalei Rav Chana bar Chia le Rav Yehuda. That's one version. V'amri, another version is Rav Huna bar Yehuda le Rav Yehuda. A third version is V'amri Rav Chia bar Yehuda le Rav Yehuda. Okay, so they all said, either one of them, they said to Rav Yehuda as follows: Umi Amar Shmuel hachi. Did Shmuel paskin like the Chachamim? But we have a story where we see Shmuel clearly didn't. There was this star that came out of the Bezdin of Shmuel. And there was a kiyum, there was a verification that was written for this star. Now when you write a verification for a star, you sort of write, the Bezdin writes another document. And that other document of verification is called a handpick. So what do they write in this verification? Mid'asa Rav Anan bar Chia, that Rav Anan bar Chia came. Rav Anan bar Chia was one of the witnesses signed in that shtar. So he came, va'asit, and he testified, achsimis yadeh, about his signature. And he also testified about the other signature as well. And Umanu, who was the other signature? Rav Chanan bar Rava. And then the handpick says further, Umida'asa Rav Chanan bar Rabbe. Rather, Rav Chanan bar Rabbe came as well, va'asid achsimis yadeh, and he testified about his signature, and he also testified about the other signature as well. Umanu, who's the other signature? Rav Anan bar Chia. And this shtar, this handpick, continues and says, Ashanu v'kaimanu, and we verified it, and it's good. Kedachazi, as we've seen, what these two Eidos testified each about their own signature and for their friend's signature. So what do we clearly see here? Shmuel required that each one should testify not only about their signature, but about their friend's signature as well, like the opinion of Rebbe, not like the Rabbanan. Amalei, so he answered, Rav Yehuda answered back, that story was an exception. Ahu shtareh the Yasmi Have. That was a shtar that the Yisayimim were using to collect money. So when it comes to Yisayimim, you're extra careful. The Shmuel, and therefore Shmuel was afraid, lebezdin tayin, that maybe there's going to be a bezdin that will make a mistake. And Vesava Shmuel, so therefore Shmuel thought to himself as follows: maybe there'll be a bezdin that will think, even if usually we paskin like Rebbe when he's arguing with one colleague, but we don't paskin like Rebbe when he argues with many of his colleagues. But ubaha, maybe they may think, this bezdin may make a mistake and think that here afila mechaveirov, that over here we paskin like Rebbe, even though he's arguing with many of his colleagues, and therefore they may think that over here, if I'm going to make the kiyum, like the Rabbanan said, that each aide could just testify about his own signature, that it's not good enough, so they won't accept his verification. So Savar, so therefore Shmuel said to himself, I'm dealing with Yisayimim Eved Rafcha. Let me do it in the best way possible for them. So there'll be no situation where these Yisayimim will lose out if they go to another bezdin that does not know the halacha. So therefore there's no raya that Shmuel holds like Rebbe here. Amar Rav Yehuda Shmuel, another halacha Rav Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Eid v'dayan mitzdarfen. You could combine a witness and a judge to verify a shtar. So what's the situation we're talking about over here? Just a moment. What's the situation we're talking about? So Rashi explains, what we're talking about over here is you have a shtar, and then the shtar was verified, and as we saw just now in the Gemara, when you verify a shtar, the Bezdin then writes another document, which is called a handpick. And on that handpick, who signs that handpick? The 3 Dayanim signed that handpick. So now you have both a shtar and a handpick that are brought into the Bezdin, and what happened is, the Levi says the shtar is forged and the handpick is forged as well. Both of them are forged. So what happens? We're going to have to verify now not only the shtar, but we have to verify this handpick as well. So one aid of the shtar comes in front of us and says that this is my signature, this is a good shtar, and one of the dayanim that signed that handpick comes along and says that I signed this handpick. So what Shmuel is saying is you could combine the aidus of that one aid and that one dayan that signed and that other document, the handpick, together they can verify this shtar. Okay, that's the halach of Shmuel. So Amar Rav said about this that did I skip something else? Yeah. Amar Rami Bachame said Kame Ma'al Yashmaita. How great, how beautiful, how powerful this halach is. He praised this din. It's a beautiful chiddush. You could combine the aid and the dayan to verify this. So Rav said about this, my mal yiseh. What's so good about this halach? He actually argues. What the aid is testifying about is not what the dayan is testifying about. And what the dayan, the judge, is testifying about, the aid is not testifying about. So Rashi explains what Rava was saying is, since we paskin like the Chachamim, when the aid testifies about his signature in the shtar, what is he testifying about? Not really about his signature. He's testifying about the money that's written inside the shtar. That's the point of his aidus. On the other hand, the dayan, what is he testifying about? I was one of those judges that was there to authenticate the signature. So they're not saying Eidus about the same subject, Bechlal. How could you combine these two to be an Eidus? So Elok, he asi Rami by Yecheskel. When Rami by Yecheskel came, so he said, Ama loitit saysinu lahani klali dechal Yehuda achi, b'shmei d'shmul. Don't listen to this halacha that my brother Yehuda and Rami were both brothers. He says, don't listen to this halacha that my brother said in the name of Shmuel. Okay? But now the Gemara brings another case where this happened. Ikle Ravnoi achua de Rabchia bar Avin. So it happened in the case of Ravnoi, the brother of Rabchia bar Avin, lemizmin shumshimi. He came to buy shumshimi, which is sesames. And Va'amar, and he said, Hachiyama Shmuel. So he also repeated the same halacha that Shmuel said, Eid v'dayim mitzdarfen. You could combine the Eid that testifies about a signature and the dayan that testifies about the handpick. Amar Meima again commented about this. How beautiful is this halacha? Amalei Ravashi, so Ravashi said to him, La Meimar, Mishum de Kolsa Avua de Imech, because your mother's father, his grandfather, so he praised this halacha that was said in the name of Shmuel. So apparently, his grandfather was, who did we have before here? Rami Bachame. So because your grandfather Rami Bachame praised this, so At Nami Mekalsas, he also praising this halacha that Shmuel said. Kvar Parcha Rava. Rava already refuted this, as Rava explained, that the Eid and the Dayan are not testifying about the same thing. A related halacha, Omer Rav Safra, Omer Rav Abba, Omer Rav Yitzchak, Bar Shmuel, Bar Marte, Omer Rav Huna, in the name of Rav Huna. V'amri la, others say, Omer Rav Huna, Omer Rav. The Rav Huna said this in the name of Rav. Shloisha sheyashvu l'kayim es shtar. When you have 3, a bezdin that sits down to authenticate the signatures of a shtar. Now, Shnayim, 3 of these dayanim that are sitting down to authenticate the shtar, 2 of them, makirin chsimis de edim. They recognize, they know the signatures of the edim. Ve'echad ena makir. And the 3rd judge, he does not recognize the signatures. So what do? So now they have to write up a document called a handpick, like we just saw. You write up a document of a handpick, and then they're going to have to sign that handpick for the shtar. So what do? So before they signed this handpick that they write up for this to verify this shtar, mi'iden befanov. So 2 of these dayanim that know the signatures, they can serve as edim and come and testify in front of the 3rd dayan, and then v'chaisim. And then these 2 edim can sign the handpick, and the 3rd judge will sign along with them. But Misha Chasmu, but once they already signed this handpick, these 2 that recognize the signatures already signed it. It says in this handpick that they wrote up that we recognize the signatures, and they already signed it. So then, they will not be able to come and testify in front of this person that we were Mekayim the Shtar and that we know this because it's a lie. I mean, they already signed this. Once they already signed it, so this third person cannot sign along with them because when they signed it, he did not yet know the signature yet. He didn't hear the edus from them yet. So if he's hearing the testimony from them about these signatures after they signed the handpick, it's too late. Okay, but now the Gemara has a diak here. Umi kasvinan. Do we even write this handpick? In some other versions in the Gemara, there's more of an arichis because basically the Gemara is being medayik over here, the words of this halacha. It sounds like there's two stages to writing this handpick. You have to write up the handpick, and then the dayanim have to sign it. From the version that we have here, from the lashon that it says here, it sounds like you can write up this whole handpick before. But just don't sign it until the two will testify about the signatures in front of the third that does not recognize the signatures. And after they testify, then they sign it. But it could be written up from before already. In fact, the Gemara, why? Could you write it up already from before? When you write up this ashrasa dedaina, which is again another term being used for this handpick. Ashrasa means when you solidify, you strengthen, you're verifying the signatures. The nichtav mikamei the nechvi sadia chasimis yedayu, if it was written up before the Edom actually came and demonstrated that these signatures are authentic, psula, it's possible, you can't use it. The mischazi kishikra, because it looks like a lie. Even though, usually by a regular loan, by a regular sale, this is what you do. Right? You write up the shtar before the sale takes place, before the loan takes place, and then you use it for this sale or loan, right? But over here, when it comes to being Mekayim Ashtar, which is one of the Chachamim's takanas, Chachamim instituted that it should be done in a way that it should be looking 100% authentic, including this detail here. You can't write up this document that we, Bezdin, saw these signatures and verified it. You can't write that up before they actually got the testimony that they heard about the authenticity of the signatures. It has to be written up after they heard the testimony. Because otherwise it could look like a falsehood, even though it's not really, but it just looks like. So Hachanami here as well, Mischazi Kishikra, when you have two of these dayanim that are testifying in front of one of them, and they wrote up this document already before the two said that edus, doesn't it look like a lie? Why are they allowed to do this? Ella, so therefore the Gemara says, you're right, we have to switch the version of this halacha that we mentioned before. Rather read it as follows. Before this document was written up, me'idin b'fanav. So then those two say the edus about the signatures in front of that one that doesn't recognize it. And v'chaisim, and then they sign it. But misha kasfu, once the document was already written up, ein me'idin b'fanav. So then these two cannot say edus in front of the one, v'chaisim, and then they just sign it because it's too late, it looks like it's a lie. Okay, so now the Gemara says, Shmami not las. We can prove from this halacha that Rav Huna said it, or Rav Huna said it in the name of Rav, we can prove 3 points. Shmami, the first point we can prove is Eid Nasadayin. That an Eid could become then a judge. That's what's happening here, right? These two that are Eidim are then serving as the judges to sign this handpick. Shmamina, we also can learn from here, Dayanin, Amakirin, Chsimas, Yidei, Eidim. That when you have Dayanim, and they recognize the signatures of the Eidim, so nobody has to say edus in front of them about these signatures. If they themselves recognize the signatures, they can go ahead and sign a verification for the shtar. That's right, that's what's happening over here. The two that recognize the signatures, nobody is testifying in front of them about the authenticity of the edus. Shmamina, another thing that you learn from here is Dayanin, if you have a dayan, or any of the dayanim that do not recognize the signatures, you have to have the testimony in front of each one of these dayanim separately about the authenticity of the signatures. If there's one dayan that doesn't know, they will have to say edus in front of him. This one guy, this one dayan rather, can't be mitzadef with the other two without the edus being said in front of him. So we see 3 points over here. So the Gemara asks in this, not necessarily could you prove all 3 points. Maskefla Rav Ashi asks, Bishloi made nasa dayan, shamina mino. Yep, the halacha that an aid becomes a dayan, that you see from it, that's clear. Elo dayan and amakirin chsimisidei eidim ein tzrichen lahad b'fneihem. This that you say that if there's dayanim that don't recognize the signatures, so the eidim have to testify in front of them about these signatures. So who says that's true? Dilme la'olam ein malach. Really, I'll tell you la'olam. Again, dil milo olam ein malach tzrichin. Really, I'm missing something over here. Where am I holding over here? 1 second. Let me go back up a line. Second. Ella. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back up again to the law where it says Ella. Ella dayanim amakirim chsimisidei edim ein tzrichin lahad b'fneihem. This that you said that if there's dayanim that recognize the signatures, so they know it already. Nobody has to testify in front of them. How do you know that that's true? Usually, if there's a dayan that does not recognize the signatures, you do need Eidim to testify in front of them about the signatures. And Vishani Yacha, why over here, these two dayanim that know the signatures, nobody has to testify in front of them? Because at least there's a third one that does not know the signature, and they're testifying in front of him. So as long as in front of one of the dayanim there are Eidim that are speaking and testifying, that's enough. Right? So the point of here is, again, this whole concept of a kiyum of a shtar is a takana midrabanan, and the Chachama wanted to be done in the best way possible. So therefore, what the Gemara is saying is, even though usually if they know, there should be no reason that anybody has to testify in front of them. But over here, if two know and one does not know, so then you have to, as long as you're testifying in front of one of them, that's good enough. That there's an eidus being said about these signatures. But in another situation, let's say all three of them know it already. If all three of them know it already, maybe, so in such a case, you would have to testify at least in front of one of them. Yeah, because like we see over here, that it's you have to have some eidus being said about this. That was the takana midrabanan. Okay, let's go to the next point. V'dayanin she'ei makirin chsim misidei edim tzrichin lahad b'fnei kol echad ve'echad. This that you're saying that when you have dayanim that don't recognize the signatures, you have to say testimony in front of each one of them. Even the one that doesn't know, you have to say eidus in front of him about the signatures. It says the Gemara, from here there's no proof. Over here you see that two had to say eidus in front of the third that didn't know. Maybe I'll tell you that really ain't tzrichin, that you do not have to testify in front of each one of the dayanim that don't know the signatures. But v'shani hacha duloi kamekaimi hagad the klal. If you're not going to testify in front of that one dayan that doesn't recognize the signature, there won't be any eidus that's being said here at all. Two of them know it, one of them does not know it, and therefore there won't be any eidus being said about these signatures. That last dayan is just relying on the fact that the other two know it. So in such a case, you're going to have to say testimony at least in front of that other third dayan. So therefore, these 2 points cannot be proven from here. But what did we prove from here? We proved the point that aid nasa dayan, that an aid could serve as a judge. Fragt the Gemara, Yosef Rababa v'kamal Allah hashmaite aid nasa dayan. So Rav Abba was saying this halacha that an aid could become a dayan. Eis v'Rav Safra l'Rav So Rav Safra asks Rav Abba about this. Ra'ush loisha. What happens in a case? This is talking about the halacha of the eidus by kiddush hachodesh. So you have all three that saw the new moon, v'heim bezdin, and they themselves are a good bezdin. So do they have to say eidos, or could they just rely on the fact that they themselves saw the new moon? So the halacha is yamdu shnayim, let two of them get up and serve as witnesses. And that one dayan that's still sitting, let him combine another two together with him, and now the two will say eidos in front of these other three that are sitting now as a bezdin. And then so then this bezdin that's sitting there will now be mekadosh the new month. What's the reason they do this? Because a yachid, it can't be mekadosh chodesh on his own. He has to combine another two friends with him in order to be mekadosh chodesh. But the question now is, if you're going to say that a witness could then become the judge himself, why do you have to combine another two people together with this one dayan here? Those two that are testifying about the new moon that they saw, let them then sit down together with this one dayan, and then these three can be mekadosh. You don't have to bring another two people together with this one individual here. The eidim themselves will then afterwards become the dayanim to say that the chodesh is mekodesh.
Even the third one didn't see.
Again?
Even the third one did not see.
Well, the case here is that all three saw, but theoretically you're right. L'chayre, this halacha can be true even if the third one did not see. 2 out of the 3 saw, so let the 2 say edus, and then let them sit down and become the dayanim themselves. Why do you have to bring another 2 dayanim? So you clearly see here that the edim cannot be the dayanim. Amalei, sort of Safra said, Rababa rather said,
Don't they have to say
They say the Edus in front of one person. They say Edus to this one dayan, and then they do, in order to be mekadesh the chaydish, to say mekudish, you have to have three. But to listen, this one person listens, and then the Eid themselves becomes the dayan based on their own Edus. Amalei afle didi kashili. I had the same question. V'shilti Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta. I asked this question to Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta. Rav Yitzchak Rav Huna. Rav Yitzchak asked this question to Rav Huna. Rav Huna l'chiyah bar Rav. Rav Huna asked Chiyah bar Rav about this. V'chiyah bar Rav l'Rav. Chiyah bar Rav asked Rav. V'amalahu, and Rav answered them, you can't compare that story to what we're speaking about here. Hanach le'edus ha'chaydish. Leave the story of this edus ha'chaydish, the iraisa. Over there, we're requiring edus to be mekadesh the new chaydish min ha'teira. So when it comes to something which is done min ha'teira, we say ein ed nasa dayan. The edus is edus and dayanim are dayanim. You have to have separate witnesses and separate judges. And the Taisus here brings a pasuk for this. Va'omdu shneya anoshim. You have to have edim that are standing and saying they're edus, and you have the dayanim that are saying the chaydish is mekudish. But v'kiyim shtar is the rabbanon. Over here we're speaking about verifying a shtar. The whole requirement to verify a shtar is all with the rabbanon, and therefore the rabbanon are lenient that the edim themselves could become the dayanim.